Welcome back to Stylex Studio, and this is class number 11, part 2 of the Photoshop for Beginner series. And in this class, once again, we'll be focusing on the pen tool. Now, but this time specifically, we'll be working with the path mode. Okay, so without further ado, let's get straight into Photoshop. Okay, so let's open up our Photoshop, and as you can see, I have an image of an apple downloaded onto my system, and I've actually uploaded it into my workspace. Okay, now the pen tool, to the left side of your workspace you have all your tools, and make sure you go to your pen tool, left click on it, make sure it's selected, or you can press the letter P as a shortcut, and that will take you straight into your pen tool. Go to the top, make sure path is selected, and now that you're in your path mode, we can go ahead and try to make a selection of the apple. Okay, right, so I will create my first anchor point here, and left click down, release the left click, and that creates my anchor point here. Okay, I will create another anchor point here, but this time I will hold my left click down and drag my mouse away from the anchor point so I can create a curve on my line or my path, and I think that should be good enough for me, and I will release my left click. Okay, now as you noticed, as soon as I dragged my mouse away from the anchor point with the left click down, it gave me two separate handles. Okay, now these handles, once again I'll explain, the handle previous to the anchor point controls a curve on this line or this path here. Okay, the handle that comes after the anchor point will control the line or the curve to the next anchor point. Okay, so you can move these handles individually by going to the end point of the handle, holding the Alt key and left click down, and then moving into the direction that you require. Okay, so if I do my third anchor point here, as you can see, okay, so I'll explain a few things to you. At this point, I'm going to create my next anchor point here, which is going to be just slightly outside my path, and I'll create my next anchor point here. Okay, now for example, if you've made a mistake, like if I wanted to actually reposition this, all I would need to do is go onto my anchor point, control, left click down, and then I can move my anchor point to or relocate the anchor point to the desired position. Okay, now as you can see, I don't have a curve on this at the moment, but that's not an issue. Go on to the anchor point again, control, left click down, and drag. That will give you new handles. Okay, so we have a handle here, and I think about there. Okay, and once again, let's go to left click and move this to another position, say for example here, and then we can modify this by Alt, left click, and just correct that curve slightly for ourselves. Okay, and there we have it. Now that we have a path created around our object, and we're happy with the path, we can go ahead and make it into a selection. Now, how would we make this into a selection? Very easily. make sure you're within your path. So I'm actually on my object. I would right click, it gives me a pop-up, and the fourth option down is make selection. I would left click on this, it gives me the selection pop-up box, and it will ask you for some details. Feather radius, I want to keep mine at 0, anti-alias will be checked, and a new selection. Once I have this, I will left click on OK. It's created a selection for me. Okay, now once the selection has been created, I have an option here at the bottom of my layers panel which says add mask. I will click on add mask. Now masks are very important within Photoshop. Okay, now for example, if I wanted to actually modify, add bits or take bits away from my selection, I can do this with a mask. Okay, before we proceed any further, you have to get this phrase into your head and keep repeating it many times. Black conceals, white reveals. Black conceals, white reveals. Okay, now if you look at the mask, it's black and white. Okay, black is what the background is, it's concealed it. White reveals. White is the apple and it's actually revealing the apple. So black conceals and white reveals. For example, I have this stem. If I wanted to hide this stem, I would make sure my layer mask is selected. I will go to my paintbrush, make sure black, because I'm concealing it. I'm trying to hide it. Okay, I'm trying to hide it, so I will make sure black is selected and layer is selected. All I would need to do was paint it with black, and as you can see, I've managed to conceal it. Okay, so black conceals and white reveals. Now for example, if I wanted to bring the stem back, make sure my mask is highlighted and swap the paint colors to white, make sure brush is active, and if I was to brush at this point, as you can see, it will reveal. Okay, now I need to go in slightly bit more and make sure conceal the bits around the stem itself. So I can just gently brush around the apple stem and make sure we conceal what we don't need. That's a little bit here. Let's go zoom in slightly a bit more, and this little bit here. Reduce the size of the brush. And then conceal just the outer bits of the stem. Okay, now that we have a selection with a layer mask, how do you combine this into one? For example, you would need to go onto your layer mask, right click down, and the third option down is apply layer mask. Once I apply the layer mask, remember, it becomes one. Whatever was in the background or whatever was in the black is concealed now permanently, and whatever was in the white would be revealed, and that's what you will see. Now say for example I wanted to actually move this to another image altogether, a completely different image. I can also do this by making sure the move tool is selected, left click down, holding down the left click on the object or your selection, and then with the left click held down, drag your mouse to the new image. Once the new image appears on your screen, do not release the left click. Bring your mouse on. As soon as you do, you'll see a white border appears. Come off it, I'm on it. As soon as I come onto my canvas, a white border will appear. Once you see the white border, release, take your point or your cursor to a point on the image or your canvas, and then release the left click, and voila. And even now, if I wanted to actually increase the size of this on this particular canvas, I can also do that as well, and I'm free to move it around on this canvas and reposition it. As you can see, you are free to do what you wish with that selection, and remember, go away and do your practice runs, because you know practice makes perfect. The more practice you do with these tools, the better you will have an understanding of them and the better you will become. Okay, so definitely go away and do your practice runs. As always, definitely hit the subscribe button, like and share the videos, spread the wealth, and don't forget to hit the bell icon. As always, take care of yourselves, and we'll see you in the next class in the Photoshop for Beginners series. Adios amigos.